Coming up in this video, I hope to inspire you with some recipes using up your leftover eggnog. And if you need a recipe for eggnog, I'm going to share my mother-in-law's recipe with you at the end of this video. So stay tuned and let's enjoy the holidays together. In this video, I'm just giving you a few ideas. You can also put eggnog in pancakes, French toast, muffins, oatmeal, cheesecake, ice cream, lattes, milkshakes, quiches, and even your sweet potatoes. First up, we're going to make some fabulous eggnog quick bread. To make eggnog bread, you need 2 eggs at room temperature, 1 cup of eggnog, 1 stick or a half cup of melted butter, and I'm using unsalted butter, 2 teaspoons of rum extract, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. For the dry ingredients, you will need 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, 3/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar, 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Here's a tip: if you don't have room temperature eggs at the moment, and who does, go ahead and stick your eggs in warm water for 10 minutes. They'll be up to room temperature in no time. Just make sure you use them right away. So we're going to mix up 2 bowls worth of ingredients. First is going to be our flour and our spices, and the other is going to be our wet ingredients with the sugar. So we're going to add the 2 1/4 cups of flour. Next is 2 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. A half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Then you want to whisk the ingredients together. Next, we'll crack our eggs into the other bowl. Then we're going to scrape in our butter. And this is probably a good time to preheat your oven to 350. Then you need 3/4 of a cup of sugar. My measuring cup has a line where it says 3/4. But if you don't, just use a 1/4 measuring cup 3 times. Then we'll add our 1 cup of eggnog. Then 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And 2 teaspoons of rum extract. And the reason I have this on hand and don't have to go to the store for it is because I use this in my pina colada zucchini bread. That's very good, and I'll leave you a link to that video in the iCards. It's my husband's favorite zucchini bread. You won't even know zucchini's in it. Next, you want to beat this very well. Next, we're going to slowly add our dry mixture. And you don't want to overmix this. Any quick bread you don't want to mix completely together. You might want some lumps in it. Because if you don't, it's going to turn out tough. This will make a full-size loaf or 3 mini loaves or a batch of muffins. The size of your baking vessel is up to you. Just make sure it's greased. Alright, that's good enough. Then you want to grease your pan. And pour in your batter. Now this will get baked for an hour or an hour and 10 minutes. And if you have muffins, you want to bake those for 25 to 30 minutes, and mini loaves anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. Next up is eggnog pudding. To make eggnog pudding, we're going to use 2 cups of eggnog, a half a cup of whole milk, 3 to 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 3 egg yolks, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter at room temperature, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, a half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. Before you turn your burner on, we're going to add our sugar, our 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, half teaspoon of nutmeg, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 pinch of salt. And you want to whisk that together. Always want to mix your sugar with your cornstarch before you put it in anything, unless the directions tell you differently. So we're still with the burner off. We're slowly going to whisk in our eggnog. And you don't want any lumps. And then our half a cup of milk. And our 3 egg yolks. Alright, now we're going to place the burner on medium heat, and we're going to stir constantly for 5 to 7 minutes, vigorously. So for the next 7 minutes, you're just stirring and standing still and humming a tune. At the 7-minute mark, it thickened really quickly, like it was there, bam. So took it off the heat, and we're gonna add our butter and our teaspoon of vanilla. And we're gonna stir that in till it melts. And you might want to have your bowls ready that you're going to pour it into ready before you get to this stage. And I'm laughing because it just dawned on me I don't have them ready. But I think my husband would be content with me just leaving it like this, because he'll probably eat the whole thing himself. Not in one sitting, but you know what I mean. And that's how easy eggnog pudding is. Now you'll want to put saran wrap on top of, right on top of your pudding when you put it in the refrigerator, because it will develop a skin. Or, and that's not good eats. Now my directions say you can put this through a sieve, but it's too thick. I wouldn't want to waste any. It's already forming a skin. So we have an eggnog pudding for you with a dab of...
A dab of what?
Oh, a dab do. So I have some eggnog pudding with a dollop of Cool Whip for you, sir.
Sounds good. Tastes like eggnog.
So do you like it?
Yeah.
Now it can't get any sweeter than this. We're going to make some eggnog fudge, and it's very good. To make eggnog fudge, we're going to use 2 cups of granulated sugar, 3/4 cup of eggnog, a cup of white cocoa chocolate chips, a jar of marshmallow cream, 2 tablespoons of softened butter, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and plus for garnish, a pinch of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, or you can also use rum extract. First, we're going to take our 8x8 pan and we're going to line it with parchment paper. And I'm going to do my box corners. Before we start making this fudge, I want to show you how I have everything I possibly might need to get started and finish all close together. I have my sugar and my eggnog and the butter and the pinch of salt to go in first. Then I have my chips and my marshmallow and my extract and my nutmeg ready to go quickly into the pot. Then over here I have my 8x8 pan ready to pour into once we get it all settled. It's not hard, it's just takes a little bit of stirring and we'll have it done in no time. Alright, first we're going to start by adding our 2 cups of sugar into our saucepan, and we're going to put this over medium heat. Then we'll add our eggnog, our butter, and 1 pinch of salt. That brings the sweetness even more to the surface. You don't necessarily taste the salt. So we're gonna whisk this and get the sugar dissolved, and the butter will soon melt, and we'll be stirring for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then we'll make sure we take its temperature, and we want it up to 234 to the softball stage. But I'm going to mix it before I get that thermometer in there to get the sugar dissolved first. And I'm using a silicone whisk just to prevent our ears from going nutty. I think I'll bring you back when the butter's melted. Alright, my butter has completely melted, and I'm still here stirring and stirring. And I set a timer for 7 minutes. And I think at the 2-minute mark, I'm going to put my thermometer in there to see what temperature we are, just because I want to be able to have my whole whisk in the pan. And this is what it looks like at 3 minutes in. It looks like sweetened condensed milk, but thin. It just has that yellow hue to it. We've had this going stirring for 5 minutes now, so we're going to put our thermometer in. And my clip never clips to the side, so that's why I waited. So we're looking for a temperature of 234. It'll probably take 2 minutes for it to even climb that high. So it's definitely going to boil before you get to 234, which if you make fudge, you know that's the softball stage. So just give it time and you'll have it there shortly. So a watch pot never boils, right? How about fudge never gets to the right temperature? It just takes a while. Alright, I've turned off my burner. I'm going to switch it to this part of the stove. We're going to quickly add our white chocolate chips, our vanilla, our nutmeg. Get that started quick. Then add our fluff. And we're just going to keep stirring. And you want to keep vigorously stirring until the white chocolate and the marshmallow cream are completely melted and the mixture is smooth. And look at this eggnog bread. Somehow get it into our pan. It's setting up quickly. Excuse my reach. So I'm going to place it on a wire rack to cool, along with our beautiful eggnog bread. My mother-in-law's recipe for eggnog includes 1 quart of ice cold milk, 4 large eggs, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and ground nutmeg to your liking. First, I'm just going to crack my eggs into another bowl just to make sure we leave the shell out of the drink. Next, we'll add that to our blender. And if you don't have a high powerful one like I do, don't worry. Next, we're going to add our eggs to the blender. You can also use an immersion blender or anything that'll just mix up your ingredients very well. So then we're just going to put our container on the blender and just pulse it a few times to break up the egg. Next, we'll add the rest of your ingredients. 1 quart of milk, 3 level tablespoons of sugar, 2 and 3. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Then we're going to put our lid on and blend well. Then it's time to add our nutmeg. And this is all to your liking. You can even probably put in cinnamon if you like. I'm just going to add 1/4 teaspoon to the quart of milk. And we're done. and you want to pour it into like a pitcher or half-gallon jar, and it's ready to serve. So we have eggnog bread and eggnog fudge.
All right. Pretty good. Very good.
I thought so too.
So this is all that's left.
No, there's plenty of that.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll have it till Christmas.